Stop telling yourself that everything is going to be fine. Stop smiling at the mirror, repeating empty affirmations, and waiting for the universe to magically reward your positive attitude. We are living in an era poisoned by the relentless, suffocating pressure of toxic positivity. Society has sold you a devastating lie. The idea that if you simply focus on the good, manifest your desires, and ignore the darkness, you will achieve a state of permanent happiness. This is not just naive, it is psychologically dangerous. Positive thinking is a fragile glass shield. The moment the brutal, chaotic reality of existence strikes it, it shatters into a million pieces, leaving you completely defenseless, paralyzed by panic, and drowning in despair. Look around you. You live in the most comfortable, sanitized, and frictionless era in human history. You have climate-controlled rooms, instant delivery of food, and entertainment available at the tip of a glowing glass screen. You have outsourced your survival to corporations and algorithms. Because your physical body is no longer challenged by the elements, your mind has become incredibly soft. When a person who has never faced true adversity encounters a minor inconvenience, a delayed flight, a negative comment on the internet, a bad day at work, their nervous system treats it like a catastrophic life or death crisis. This is the tragic irony of modern existence. We have engineered a world of absolute physical safety, and as a direct result, we have created the most anxious, terrified, and emotionally fragile generation to ever walk the earth. The modern man is terrified of discomfort. He is terrified of bad news. He spends his entire life aggressively avoiding the thought of loss, failure, or death. He builds a psychological fortress made of paper, desperately hoping it will never rain. But the universe is entirely indifferent to your hopes. The storms will come. The economic crashes will happen. The people you love will betray you, or they will leave you, or they will die. Your physical health will eventually fade. If your entire mental operating system is built on the arrogant expectation that things will always turn out well, you are setting yourself up for an absolute catastrophe. You are a victim waiting to be slaughtered by reality. 2,000 years ago, the Stoics looked at this human fragility and engineered the ultimate psychological armor. They did not practice positive thinking. They practiced something entirely opposite, a concept so profoundly dark and effective that it terrifies the modern mind. They called it Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. The Stoic does not wake up and tell himself it is going to be a beautiful day. He wakes up and actively visualizes the destruction of absolutely everything he holds dear. He envisions poverty. He envisions exile. He visualizes disease, brutal betrayal, and sudden death. He looks at his wealth and imagines it burning to the ground. Why would someone intentionally subject themselves to such dark, morbid thoughts? Because the Stoics understood the true, mechanical nature of fear. Fear is heavily reliant on surprise. When a tragedy hits you unexpectedly, the shock paralyzes your nervous system. You panic, you make irrational, emotional decisions, and your spirit breaks. But if you have already walked through that exact tragedy 1,000 times in your own mind, the shock is entirely eliminated. You have already felt the sting of the loss. You have already figured out the logistics of how you would survive it. When the disaster actually strikes, you do not collapse in a pathetic state of "why is this happening to me?" You stand tall, you look reality dead in the eye, and you say, "I have been expecting you." The great Stoic philosopher Seneca took this beyond mere visualization. He turned it into physical action. Seneca was one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in the Roman Empire. He had access to infinite luxury, yet he knew that this wealth was making him soft. He knew it was a vulnerability. So, every month, Seneca would practice a brutal exercise. He would strip off his expensive robes and dress in the rough clothes of a peasant. He would leave his massive estate, eat the cheapest, stalest bread he could find, and sleep on the cold, hard floor for days at a time. He intentionally simulated absolute poverty, and while he sat there, cold and hungry, he would ask himself, "Is this the condition that I so deeply feared?" By stepping voluntarily into the nightmare, he destroyed the power the nightmare held over him. He realized he could survive on almost nothing, making him completely fearless in his political and financial life. This is not pessimism. Pessimism is a pathetic, weak state of constant complaining. Premeditatio Malorum is an active, aggressive, and highly strategic psychological training. It is the mental equivalent of elite military combat drills. A soldier does not go into battle hoping the enemy will miss. A soldier trains for the absolute worst-case scenario: ambushes, equipment failure, overwhelming odds, so that when the bullets actually start flying, his training takes over and he survives. You must become a soldier of your own mind. If you are terrified of losing your job, spend 20 minutes today vividly imagining that you have just been fired. Your bank account is draining. What is your next move? How do you rebuild? If you strip away the unknown, you strip away the anxiety. Consider the profound paradox of this Stoic practice. The people who desperately cling to positive thinking are usually the most miserable and anxious individuals you will ever meet. They are in a constant state of low-level panic, terrified that their fragile bubble of happiness is going to pop. They cannot actually enjoy what they have because they are paralyzed by the subconscious fear of losing it. But the Stoic, who has already accepted the inevitable loss of everything in his mind, experiences a supreme, untouchable level of freedom. When you look at the people you love and genuinely internalize the fact that they are mortal, that their existence is temporary and they could be taken from you tomorrow, you stop taking them for granted. You stop wasting irreplaceable time on petty, meaningless arguments. You love them with a fierce, absolute presence because you know the clock is ticking. You appreciate the present moment exactly because you know it will be destroyed. Marcus Aurelius, ruling over the known world, constantly reminded himself of his own insignificance. He programmed his mind for betrayal before he even stepped out of his bed. When a general betrayed him, he was not shocked, he was not destroyed by anger. He had already factored human greed and disloyalty into his equation of the world. You must systematically deconstruct your attachments. Look at the things you think you cannot live without: your social status, your comfort, your reputation, your endless digital distractions. Now, mentally burn them all to the ground. Strip yourself down to nothing but your core character, your discipline, and your internal choices. If you can find peace in that dark, empty space of your mind, you become completely untouchable. How can the world possibly threaten a man who has already surrendered everything in his imagination? You cannot threaten a man who is no longer afraid to lose. We are living in a society of incredibly soft people who expect the world to constantly adapt to their feelings. They are waiting to be saved by a positive mindset. Let them hope. Let them live in their comfortable delusions. You must choose a different path. You must walk into the darkness voluntarily. Do not hope for a life without pain. Prepare your mind to endure the pain without breaking. Hope is a beggar-ass strategy. Preparation is the strategy of kings. Drop the toxic positivity. Stop running from the shadow of reality. Look directly at your deepest fears, analyze them to the bone, and realize that you have the internal fortitude to survive them all. Once you accept the worst, you are finally free to live at your absolute best. If you are ready to stop hoping and start building an unbreakable, sovereign mind, subscribe to this channel. We are discarding the fragile illusions of the modern world and forging mental armor. Leave a comment below with one comfort you are mentally letting go of today. I will see you in the next one.